Thank you, sir.
The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from California, Ms. Bass, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Director, for being here with us today. And I also want to thank you for the time that you spent a week or so ago with representatives of the Congressional Black Caucus following up on the Black Identity Extremism. And I would like to ask you questions following up from that meeting. We raised a number of concerns, one of which the idea that that document was distributed to law enforcement nationwide, and also the concern that the message that that sends to many local law enforcement agencies and how you distinguish between what might be problematic behavior and also what is people just exercising their First Amendment rights. And so one of the questions that we asked you that I wanted to follow up on is if you've learned any more about what criteria, evidence, methodology that was used to even come up with that category of Black identity extremists.
Congresswoman, as I think I may have mentioned in our meeting, the analysis that occurred there involved which is our standard practice for one of these products, and we issue them across all of our various program categories, is to take both so-called open source information, which is what the intelligence community would call it,
right,
and our own ongoing investigations, of which there are many, and mesh them together with other information and try to make sure that the information that we're speaking on, that those two things align. As to your concerns, and we discussed them, and I hope I found the conversation constructive hearing your concerns, and I hope you did too. We take respect for the First Amendment very seriously, and in this context, as in every other domestic terrorism context, we want to be very clear with people and all the American people that we do not investigate rhetoric, ideology, opinion,
right,
no matter who might consider it extremist. What we do investigate is when rhetoric, ideology, opinion takes that next step into the category of federal crime and in particular violence.
Exactly, and I did find our conversation constructive. There did seem to be several things that I know you were going to follow up on, and so you were clear about the three categories that were reasons for investigation. And one of the things that I mentioned to you is the difference, and we talked about this, the difference between an investigation and surveillance. So you have the surveillance activity that may or may not lead to an investigation. And so what a number of activists are complaining about around the country is the increase of surveillance, being visited by FBI agents, having FBI agents come to their house, leaving their business cards, and so that, you know, was a concern. And what was that really based on? So these are activists that are protesting because of community police relations, because of killings that might have happened, a variety of reasons. Some of this is, it might be the protests that have taken place in Baltimore, in several of the cities around the country. And so I want to know if there's any additional information that you have found from that. What is happening in your offices around the country where activists are complaining of this?
I have, after our meeting, I did farm out a whole number of follow-up questions to people. I will confess that I've been fairly busy lately and have not yet gotten the results of those, but we will continue to look into those questions.
Okay, we really need to do that because let me just explain to you that one of the things that all of us would like to take place in our communities is for our communities to cooperate with law enforcement. But at this point in time, to have FBI agents come by people's house after peaceful demonstrations, I know I can't recommend that they speak to the FBI. I have to tell them that they can't speak to the FBI because if you do say something and you innocently say something that might not be true, then that person feels as though they might be entrapped because they could be charged with lying to an FBI agent. And so to find the information out as soon as possible, I think, is really important. I want our community to participate, but we can't participate if it's not really clear where the FBI is coming from. So many organizations have called for the withdrawal of the BIE designation, in particular NOBLE, which is the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. And so in light of the public outcry, including from law enforcement, I want to know if part of the follow-up from our meeting is if you are considering retracting that category of black identity extremists and then sending out clarification to law enforcement around the country that that category really doesn't exist?
I think what we're doing right now is what we would normally do with any intelligence assessment, which is we continue to evaluate the data as it rolls in. The intelligence assessment in question was a snapshot in time, and as we get more information that comes in from all quarters, considering all sorts of information, I expect that we will update that information in an appropriate way, and depending on what the information shows, it could be anything from a reaffirmance to a retraction to a clarification. It just depends on what the information shows. But the one thing we will not do is withdraw intelligence assessments based on public outcry. I'm sure you can understand why that's not an approach that ultimately will stand us in.
Okay, well, I want to continue to be in contact with you for this, because I think one of the points that we made to you, and I really hope you take it seriously, is the harm that that document is causing. Because what that says, it sends a chill to activists around the country, and my big concern is that local law enforcement will misinterpret that and will clamp down on people exercising their First Amendment right.
Time of the gentlewoman has expired.